Right, welcome to this short video on simplifying algebraic fractions. We're going to go through a number of examples, getting gradually more difficult as we go on, and I'm going to show you some techniques which you can apply to many of these algebraic fractions. So we'll start with the nice simple ones. Now, to remember that the rules of fractions apply even with algebraic fractions. Okay, so whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom, for example. So if we have a look at the first one, top left, we've got 42x, y, z divided by 56. Well, the first thing I'm going to look to do is I'm going to look to simplify the numbers. Before I even touch the letters, I'm going to look to simplify the numbers. So 42 and 56, they are both in the 7 times table, so I'm going to divide them both by 7. So I'm going to cross them both off, and I'm going to divide them both by 7. 42 divided by 7 is 6. 56 divided by 7 is 8. Now, there are no letters that are in common at the top and the bottom, so there's nothing to cancel out there yet, but the 6 and the 8, okay, they are in the 2 times table, so I can divide them both by 2 as well, look. So that becomes a 3, that becomes a 4. Okay, as it turns out, they're both divisible by 14. So it now becomes 3x, y, z over 4. I can't simplify any more than that. Okay, the numbers don't simplify, and there are no letters in common at the top and the bottom. Okay, but in this next one, there are. Okay, again, first thing I'm going to do is I am going to simplify the numbers. Look to see what times table they're both in. Now I know they're both in the 15 times table. Okay, so 45 divided by 15, okay, is 3, and divide 60 by 15 gives us 4. There we go. Okay, so I know that I'm going to have 3 at the top and 4 at the bottom. Now for the letters. Now if there's any letters in common at the top and the bottom, we can simply just cross them out when there are no powers present. We'll have a look what happens when there's powers present in the next example. But because there are no powers, the A and the A can cross off, and the B and the B can cross off. So that is going to leave us with, at the top, 3 at the top, and at the bottom 4C, because those are the things that are not crossed out. Okay, now, so nice and simple when there are no powers. Now in this case there are powers, so before I start crossing things off, before I start trying to simplify things, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to rewrite this. So I'm going to write 33 A, B, B at the top, and I'll explain that in a moment, and 44 A, B at the bottom. Okay, now the reason I've written A, B, B is because it's A squared, B squared. So remember, when letters are next to each other, that means that we are going to multiply them. So A squared is A times A, or AA is A times A, and we multiply it by B squared, BB. At the bottom it's A cubed, so there's A times A times A. There are 3 A's being multiplied together there. Okay, so I've written it out into its individual little terms here. Again, start with the numbers. Well, they're both divisible by 11, so that becomes 3 at the top, and that becomes 4 at the bottom. Now to cross off things that are the same top and bottom. So that's 1A, 1A. There's another A top and bottom. And then there's a B top and bottom. Now, once you finish crossing off things that are the same at the top and the bottom, okay, whatever's left, okay, that is our algebraic fraction simplified. So 3b is left at the top uncrossed out. At the bottom it's 4a. So 3b over 4a, that has been simplified. Okay. So going back to the sum now, where we've got some calculations involved as well. So it's starting to get a little bit trickier. The basic ones there at the top, nice and simple. You can do quite a few of those. Just write down some things, practice writing out like that, and then simplify. But when we've got a calculation, now this 3 at the bottom, this means that the whole thing at the top is being divided by 3. So if I'm going to divide the 9x by 3, I've also got to divide the negative 12 here by 3. Because the other way that I can rewrite this is because both things are being divided by 3. I could say that 9x over 3 take away 12 over 3. Okay, I could rewrite it like that. We don't write it like that because both things are being divided by 3, so it's easier to write it in this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide everything by 3. Okay, I'm going to ignore this bit at the bottom here. But 9x divided by 3 is 3x, and 12 divided by 3 is 4, because now if I cross that out, that becomes 3, that becomes 4, that will become 1, because I've divided everything by 3. Okay, and we don't ever write something over 1 because anything divided by 1 is just itself. Okay, now if there is a number on the bottom, we can do that, it's fine. But what happens when there is a letter on the bottom? Well, same thing really, we've got to divide everything by x. Now what I'm going to do here, okay, is I am going to just rewrite this again. This is actually 3xx plus 5x all divided by x. Okay, now if I'm going to start crossing things off because of this operation symbol in the front, and this is where people get confused now, I have to cross off both parts and the bottom. Okay, because they're two separate terms, they're both being divided by the x, so the x can cancel there and there, and it has to be able to do that, otherwise we cannot cross it off. Okay, I could not cancel anything. For example, if I had 3x squared plus 5 over x, there is nothing to simplify in this one here because there's no x with the 5. This term here is not divisible by x. There's nothing to cancel here, so it would just stay as that in its simplified form. But this original question that we had, 3x squared plus 5x divided by x, there's an x and an x squared, so that becomes a 1. You can't just leave it as nothing on the bottom. So whenever you're crossing the last thing off, you have to replace it with a 1, because x divided by x is 1. Anything divided by itself, remember, is 1. 3x plus 5 at the top, and divided by 1 at the bottom. Well, we'll just leave it. 3x plus 5 simplified. Okay, it is quite a difficult topic to get your head around. Okay, spotting what to simplify. Writing out the way I do it makes it easier for me to see what can be done and what can be crossed off and what can be cancelled. But it might not be the easiest thing for you. You might just be able to see it straight away. Okay, so we've got final two examples then. When brackets are involved, well, we're looking for things that are the same at the top and same at the bottom, remember. Okay, so a little bit more advanced now, but we've got x minus 1 multiplied by x plus 1 divided by x minus 1. Well, the x minus 1 and the x minus 1 cancel each other out. That becomes a 1, that just becomes a 1. They cancel each other out, so in effect we are left with just x plus 1, that bracket, because everything's being multiplied or divided by 1. Okay, and that x plus 1 is just there on its own. Okay, so whenever you've got brackets top and bottom are the same, they can just cancel each other out because they are essentially dividing themselves by themselves, and it is just the number 1, remember. Now, the final example we've got this x squared plus 5x plus 4 at the top divided by x squared plus 4x plus 3 at the bottom. Now I can't divide everything by an x because, well, there's no x in the last term, but hopefully what you will have noticed and what makes this quite a difficult topic is that we've got another topic previously, which is factorising quadratics, that we have to do first. So we've got to factorise the quadratic at the top, and we will have to factorise the quadratic at the bottom as well. Now if you've not done any factorising quadratics, I suggest you go back and watch that video first before attempting this question. Okay, but we know there's going to be an x in both brackets for the top one. I'll start with the top. Okay, we know there's going to be a 1 and a 4, or a 2 and a 2, because those are the only pairs of numbers that will multiply together to make 4. Which pair will add together to make 5? Well, that's the 1 and the 4, so plus 1 plus 4 at the top, and then at the bottom we know there's going to be an x at the start of both to get the x squared, and then we have got 1 and 3 as our only option, so it's going to be plus 1 and plus 3. So now that we have that, we have factorised both the top and the bottom, we can now simplify this, because if we have a look closely, we've got an x plus 1 at the top and an x plus 1 at the bottom, which means our final answer is going to be x plus 4 over x plus 3. Now you can put them in brackets or you can leave them without brackets, it's entirely up to you. But when it comes to algebraic fractions, just be prepared, you may have to do some other form of manipulation before you go on to simplify them. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed, hope you found it useful, and good luck.